Hey, it's Nicole from 4spoons glutenfreerecipes.com, and today we are making gorgeous, colorful Halloween sugar cookies in honor of Pete the Pumpkin before we carve in a couple days. We're just not telling him today, so let's do it. We start with our butter or margarine. This is a non-hydrogenated, dairy-free, soy-free margarine because I am allergic to the butter. So what we do is we cream this up with our mix master thing, and then we'll be adding in the sugar and creaming the butter and the sugar until it's nice and white. So once the sugar and the margarine butter have been thoroughly whipped, you're gonna add your 2 eggs and a bit of vanilla and give it a good whip again. And I've changed from the whisk attachment to the paddle attachment for when I add my flour. Now for the dry ingredients. This recipe is simple. It does not require any fancy, expensive, complicated gluten-free flour mixes. There's only 2 flours in this recipe, brown rice flour and a bit of tapioca flour. And then we just add a little bit of salt, a bit of xanthan gum, and some baking powder, and that's it. And then it'll go straight into your wet ingredients and we'll mix it up, and then I'll show you the technique for rolling out the dough. Let's roll out our dough. Now the dough has been in the fridge chilling, so it's nice and firm. You want to grab a tea towel and get it damp and lay this tea towel onto your counter. I know that might seem a bit odd, but this is the technique and it works like a charm. Next thing you need is a piece of parchment paper, and you're gonna cut it to the exact same size as your pan. Now lay it on your dampened tea towel. This will keep the parchment from moving around because you will be rolling your dough directly onto the parchment paper that you will be cooking it in the oven on. Because it's a sticky dough, rolling on a counter and then transferring is just like complete mayhem, and it's really hard. So what we do is we roll it directly onto our parchment paper. I will show you exactly how to do that. Grab about half of the dough from your bowl and place it in the center of your parchment paper. Then we will be liberally sprinkling with brown rice flour and rolling it out to about 1/4 inch thick, or however thick you want your cookies to be. Once your dough is rolled out, you need to grab your cookie cutters and cut your dough out like so. I've cut out the cookies, allowing for space in between each cookie so that I can simply lift up the excess dough and not have to transfer or move any of the cookies. They simply stay on the parchment paper and are cooked exactly where they sit. That way we can work with sticky, soft, gluten-free dough without going completely bananas. Ta-da! So easy. Now we take our pan and transfer them onto our pan and bake them at 350 for 10 to 12 minutes until they are nice and just golden around the edges. Now as your dough dwindles and you can't be rolling out a huge slab of it, what you can do is sprinkle your parchment paper with a little dusting of flour before you roll it out on that last bit of dough, and using a metal spatula, they do transfer easily if you just use a metal spatula to scoot them over. So let's cook these and then we will ice them and they'll be so yummy! While the cookies are cooling, I will be mixing up my shiny sugar cookie icing. It's super simple, and it just takes a bit of icing sugar, some vanilla extract, a bit of cornstarch, and a little bit of water, and then you take your food coloring and just go to town, however bright you want your icing to be. So I'll show you how to do that now. So this is the consistency that you want of your icing. You want it runny, but you don't want it watery. Be aware that when you add your food coloring, depending on how much food coloring you're going to be adding, it will make the icing a bit runnier. So you want to be aware of how much water you're adding so it doesn't get too runny. If it's runny, just toss in a little bit more icing sugar and get to the right consistency. My cookies are perfect, nice and golden. I'm going to be taking them and dipping them directly into my icing and using the back of my spoon to smooth the tops. Nothing fancy here. Let them dry and they will go nice and shiny. The icing will be nice and shining and hard. And then you can package them up in an airtight container and keep them in the fridge or in the freezer. They freeze beautifully. So they're lovely. So I attempted to cut out a little face out of the cookie, but of course when it rises and cooks, the holes close up quite a bit. So you want to make really big holes when you're cutting them out of your cookie. And then I just added a little bit of jam. So it looks like there's a, little flame behind there. So there you go.